Okay, so my topic is test-driven development. According to the traditional testing, what we used to do is we have the requirements, then we used to write code and we used to test it. But according to test-driven development, what we do is we have the requirements. We used to write test cases first, and according to the test cases, we used to write code. So basically in this, first we will prepare a series of test cases. We are not preparing functionality of it. Like for example, if we have a username which we want to validate, so this username should have certain test cases, like it should not contain space or it should not contain any special character. So for this, we will prepare certain test cases, then we will write code according to them. So basically we have test which is driving the which is driving our development effort, and at the end we have particular function coded which handle over the test cases. Now, the test-driven development. It is a software development practice that focuses on creating unit test cases before developing the actual code. It is an iterative approach that combines programming, the creation of unit test, and refactoring. Now, there are three phases of test-driven development. We can say that pillars, which is used in the test-driven development. First is create precise tests. Here, the developers need to create precise unit tests to verify the functionality of specific features. What developers used to do, developers must ensure that the test compiles so that it can execute. In most cases, test is bound to fail. So this is done. This is a meaningful failure, we can say, because here the developers are creating compact tests based on their assumptions. So means on their assumptions of how the feature will behave in future. Then second is correcting the code. Once the test fails, developers need to make the minimal changes. So to correct the code so that it can run successfully when it will re-execute. Third point is refactor the code. Once the test runs successfully, check for redundancy or any possible code optimization. Refactor the code, it is to enhance the overall performance, we can say, and refactoring does not affect the external behavior of the program. Now, this is how the test-driven development works. We add the test, we see the test fails, which is done intentionally. Then we'll write code according to the test cases, what we have created. We'll run it and then we'll refactor. Refactor is used, we can say that we used to restructure the code if any requirement comes in between. So that is refactor. Now, there are certain frameworks for test-driven developments. According to means on the basis of unique programming languages, what we have multiple frameworks. Like for .NET, we use CS Unit and NUnit. For Python, we use PyUnit doctest. And for Java, we use JUnit as well as TestNG. And for Ruby projects, we use RSpec. Now, the question arises how TDD fits into agile development, because agile and TDD goes hands in hand with each other. Now, agile development demands for regular feedback, as we all know, because it is the iterative approach. So it demands the regular feedback to develop the expected product. So it is also termed as feedback-driven development. Now, what is the role of TDD? There's a high probability that project requirements may change during the development sprint cycle. To deal with this and to build products aligned with the client's changing requirements, we need constant feedback to avoid unusable software. TDD is built to offer this feedback at the earliest. We can say that based on constant feedback and bug fixes and additional addition of new features, system evolves to ensure that everything works as intended. So here TDD helps in agile development as well. Now, what are the advantages of TDD? Better program design and higher code quality. Better program design because we write test cases first. So we know, means according to our test cases, we will design a code. So we know means there will be less bugs. Then detailed project documentation, because for every feature we will write code. Therefore, it is detailed. It reduces the time required for project development. Since we used to write test case first, so we did not need to make change, means we did not, the developer means understand the requirements of the of particular feature. So it will take less time for them to write code according to the test cases. Then high test coverage, as I have said, for particular feature, means for each feature we will write the test case, so there will be high test coverage. Then with TDD we will get a reliable solution. Like test help to understand if everything goes right after adding a new feature. If at all a new requirement comes in between, so we'll add those and we'll make changes at the initial level only. Then save project cost in the long run, since there will be no bugs, so there will be no chance of getting highly paying for the project at later stage. Then of course reduction in bugs, this is the first and foremost thing which TDD offers. And it avoids the duplication of code also. Why? Because since the developer write the code at initial level only, so he knows what he wants to add on in future. Disadvantages are very less. These are early test cases created are heavy in maintenance. Then tend to write test cases which may not be needed, because sometimes, because test cases are basically on assumptions, on developers assumption. So maybe he write and he add more and more test cases which may not be needed, and writing test cases may be tedious or boring sometime. So this is the disadvantage. Then requirement changes is paid, which is same as in traditional testing also. If at all requirement is added in between, so it is highly paid. Then this statistics shows that code maintenance created without TDD. Without TDD at the testing level, we can see 15%, 15 times more it will cost at the testing level. We can see. Now I've created one program to have the better understanding. Here I have created this test, and here I have written the test cases for the username. I have given string name as my name, and I have written 4 types of different test cases in which I have given space, I have given @ and underscore and slash. And here it is the code. Now I have given assert true for the correct username, which is without space and without special characters, and assert false for all these. So when I run this, I'll get test cases passed, run one by one. So this is it. Thank you.
Do we have any test cases to show for the Mocha and Chai stuff that you're working on?
Sir, I have a Challenger app. So these are the test cases in Challenger app. For the username, for the validation of user, for all these test cases I have written.
Okay, so now what is the difference between test driven approach and then using Selenium, right? And how would you test APIs in this case?
So test driven, so in Selenium we will use to write, means after having the code we will write test cases according to it. We'll not assume in that case, but in test driven we'll write with our assumption only, that this things can be added, or this how this feature can work. This is the major difference which I have.
Don't you think that this is a development overkill?
No, sir. The test, the QA and the developer will go hand in hand with this. Means.
In this case, a lot of your development effort is eventually going to go wasted, right? So, don't you think that?
But sir, code भी तो bug free मिलेगा ना, वो ज़्यादा important है. Code में bugs तो नहीं होने चाहिए ना.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Jay, Somnath, Anuj, Aman?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.